It's now time for Trivia Tracks with yours truly, Price Robertson. This edition of Trivia Tracks is brought to you by ProMed Ambulance Services, care you can count on, and Beth Smith at Edward Jones. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC. One of the most versatile composers of his generation, Henry Mancini, is often cited as one of the greatest composers in the history of film, though he also lent a hand in TV. Perhaps his best-known work in that medium is the jazz-tinged theme and soundtrack to Peter Gunn, the first of many collaborations with director Blake Edwards. He was born Enrico Nicola Mancini in Maple Heights, Ohio, on April 16, 1924. The son of Italian immigrants, he was raised in West Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. At age 8, Mancini began learning the piccolo. He said that hearing Rudolph G. Komp's score to 1935 Cecil B. DeMille film The Crusades inspired him to pursue film music composition despite his father's wishes for him to become a teacher. After training and graduation from high school, Mancini enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces in 1943. While in basic training in Atlantic City, New Jersey, he met musicians being recruited by Glenn Miller. Owing to a recommendation by Miller, Mancini was first assigned to the 28th Air Force Band before being reassigned overseas to the 1306th Engineers Brigade in France. In 1945, he helped liberate the Mauthausen-Gusen concentration camp in Austria. Newly discharged, Mancini entered the music industry. In 1946, he became a pianist and arranger for the newly reformed Glenn Miller Orchestra. He broadened his skills in composition, counterpoint, harmony, and orchestration during studies opening with the composers Ernst Krenek and Mario Castelnuovo Tedesco. In 1952, he joined the music department at Universal Pictures, then called Universal International, contributing music to over 100 movies during the next 6 years, including his first Academy Award nomination, The Glenn Miller Story. He left the studio in 1958 to focus on independent work, starting with his work on Peter Gunn, which during its first season on the air was filmed at Universal International, Mancini's former studio, though the pilot was filmed at Desilu. The series was shot at MGM in its last 2 years. The success of Mancini's Peter Gunn score resulted in not one, but 2 soundtrack albums, the former receiving the first ever Grammy Award for Album of the Year, followed by a second TV contribution, the short-lived Mr. Lucky, also with Blake Edwards. Mancini's music to 2 of Edwards' movies, the Pink Panther series and Breakfast at Tiffany's, would become instantly recognizable, the latter receiving an Oscar nomination. Other prominent movie directors who Mancini worked with include Stanley Donen, Howard Hawks, Stanley Kramer, Norman Jewison, Arthur Hiller, and George Roy Hill. In the late 60s, Mancini scored a #1 hit single on the Hot 100, his arrangement and recording of the love theme from Romeo and Juliet. He also scored made-for-TV movies including The Money Changers, The Thornbirds, and The Shadow Box. His other TV themes include the NBC mystery movie, Newhart, Hotel, What's Happening, Remington Steele, Salute to the President, that was used for NBC's election coverage from 1976 to 1992, and even the viewer mail theme to Late Night with David Letterman. Songs with music by Mancini were staples of easy listening radio from 1960s to 1980s. His style symbolized the bright, confident, hospitable voice of bourgeois, inspired by the idealistic Kennedy era of the 60s. Artists such as Perry Como, Frank Sinatra, and Andy Williams recorded Mancini's songs. As a recording artist, Mancini released over 90 albums, many of them for RCA. 8 of these albums were certified gold. He was also a concert performer, conducting over 50 engagements per year, resulting in over 600 symphony performances in front of orchestras such as the London Symphony, the Israel Philharmonic, the Boston Pops, the Los Angeles Philharmonic, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and the Minnesota Orchestra, which he considered one of his favorites. He gave 3 command performances for the British royal family. One of Henry Mancini's last film scores was 1992's Tom and Jerry the Movie. On June 14, 1994, he lost his battle with pancreatic cancer at the age of 70. Shortly before his death, he made a one-off cameo appearance on an episode of Frasier as a call-in patient to Dr. Frasier Crane's radio show. During his lifetime, he won 4 Academy Awards, a Golden Globe, and 20 Grammy Awards. In 1995, he received a posthumous Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Till next time, I'm Price Robertson. Amazed by today's trivia? Then join me for Trivia Tracks weekdays at 6:45 on Everybody's Country Y95.